Hi everyone and welcome. This is episode 95 and in this one I'll be detailing Fallout Model's modern tactical barriers, also known as HESCO barriers. As you'll recall, in the previous video I finished the last few figures as well as some diorama pieces, and it's time now to move on to the HESCO barrier wall. It will be in the top corner of my Apache diorama. Now these can be seen in reference pictures from Iraq and Afghanistan, very much common on airfields and forward operating bases. And to make these I used this excellent kit, Modern Tactical Barriers from Fallout Models in 35 scale and made right here in South Africa. But before I move on and detail these, let's hear from the sponsor. Guys, the HESCO barriers that I'm using in this build has been generously sponsored by Fallout Models here in South Africa. These barriers, as well as airfield bases and diorama bases, a few other interesting things are available on their website. They also do international shipping, so do check it out. Let's take a closer look at these barriers. It comes packed in a very sturdy cardboard box. And you'll recall way back in video 49 I did an unboxing. The contents carefully packed in bubble wrap. And guys, if you look up close, there's some excellent detail in these barriers. If you look at the wire mesh, very clean detail indeed, and guaranteed to add a lot of value to your dioramas. Of course, they're empty. You can fill them as you please. There's a painting leaflet included with some very detailed instructions as to how to prepare them and also how to paint them. And of course, these come pre-primed, so you can just start painting them straight away if you wish. Now, my HESCO wall will be right in the corner of the diorama, and because it's on the corner, I'll have some overhang, and that won't look good. So I'll have to do some cutting on a few of these squares. So after some careful measurement, start marking the portions that will need to be cut, and just make sure that I mark it correctly in order to cut the correct piece. The resin is very easy to cut into shape, so you won't have any issues in modifying and cutting these resin barriers. So you can see, very clean cut, and this will fit nicely into that corner. So once this is done, let's just clean up those edges using a sanding block. And there you can see, there's my little HESCO barrier wall. Now, what to do about these open corners? This will have to be filled in, and for that I'm using some styrene sheet from Evergreen. Most of us are very familiar with this product. Cut into little squares, and the little squares will then fill in those cut areas. There we go, something like that. Once this is done, my HESCO wall now looks very nice and complete. You can see there the edges nicely rounded off, and this is now ready for primer. As I mentioned earlier, these are pre-primed, so you can actually start painting yours straight away. However, I wanted to do some black and white pre-shading, so I first started with a coat of Mr. Hobby Black Primer. And once the black has been applied, I can go straight ahead and add some pure white and start filling in those spaces with white so as to complete my pre-shading. So with this complete, it's time to add the base color, and in this case it is Tan Earth from Vallejo Model Color. Now this is applied with my airbrush very carefully, gradually building up the color so as not to completely cover the pre-shading that I spent so much time on. So that is the result with the base color applied, certainly happy with that. And the next step is to apply some shadow tones. For this, I'm going to use Dark Earth. I only want to apply this on the mesh section of the barrier, So I'm going to tape up the top section there, as you can see on your screen there, with some masking tape. And I can then proceed once this is done and just carefully spray those corners there with dark earth. Another small detail that I wanted to add was some dirt to the bottom of each HESCO barrier, something I saw in my reference pictures. And for this I used Vallejo dirt from the model color range. And when all this is done and I peel the masking tape, you can see a very nicely detailed paint job on this HESCO barrier. Very happy with this indeed. So guys, that is the current state of progress. All the basic painting has been done, and we can now move on and do some further detailing. Now in reference pictures, this lettering, HESCO lettering, is visible on some of the barriers. In many cases very much faded, and that's something I'd like to replicate on one or two of the barriers in my own wall. I'll be doing this with decals, and of course the first step, always apply a good gloss coat. I'll be printing the lettering on some laser decal paper. Fortunately a lot easier to come by these days than in the past. And for the lettering, I managed to track down the HESCO logo in vector format, and this is then easily copied into an existing Photoshop project that I keep for printing my decals. Guys, again, you can look at episode 56, where I outline the process of designing and creating your own decals in more detail. Basically, I followed the exact same procedure in this case. So once the page has been set up and the decals have been sized to the correct size, it's going to then be printed on my laser printer. Now, to apply these decals, I follow the same procedure as one would with any other decal. First, it's cut to size. Just recheck the sizing, the position on the actual HESCO barrier. And once this is correct, I can go ahead and just dip this in some lukewarm water and apply it to my HESCO barrier. You can see there, very easy to do. And in this case, it's very important to add a good amount of micro sol to the decal itself. I want it to completely shape itself to the wire mesh, so as to look as though it's printed on the canvas. You can see they're very much faded, and that is the next step. So there's our decal nicely set, and to do the fading, I'm again going to use the tan earth base color that I used earlier. Now really guys, this is just applied very lightly with an airbrush. It actually is just misted on to the HESCO barrier. You want to be very careful not to cover those decals completely. And you can see they're nicely faded, as we see in our reference pictures. Next is the wire mesh. Now there's two ways of applying this. You can go the normal route of using a dry brush, similar to what I'm showing you here, and then just dry brushing the silver color onto the HESCO barrier. That's one way of doing it. However, I have these very nice paint markers from AK Interactive, and they will actually work very well. I found them to be actually a bit more accurate in order to apply the wire mesh. So just carefully using the tip of the paint marker, I carefully just paint in all those wire mesh sections on the HESCO barrier. Now this takes a while, but really it's worth it to take your time and apply this as accurately as possible. So there we go guys, quite a few of these painted up, and they are ready for the next step of detailing. The next step in the process is of course a wash. In this case I'll be using these from MIG Productions. Very important because we'll be applying an enamel product. First apply a good satin coat just to make cleanup a bit easier. So with this done, I can now start and apply the wash color. You can see they're nicely coated, properly protected, and I need not worry about adding the filter. In this case, brown for dark and desert yellow, the exact color that we need. This has been thinned down with odorless thinner, enamel thinner, and this will easily flow into all that recessed detail, giving us a very nice wash effect. The excess is very easy to remove because we applied that satin coat earlier, and there you can see, if you look close up, the wash certainly doing its job. Now these are still a bit shiny from the satin coat, so I'm going to use Vallejo Ultra Matte Varnish just to matte things down. Guys, this is really my go-to varnish if I need to get rid of shine. Next, I'm going to use a paint marker again, this case being Buff, and I'm going to use the side of the marker tip there just to add a nice little highlight to the top of that Esco barrier. Very nice little contrasting color with the rest of the barrier. So guys, that's pretty much it. This is the basic detailing done on these Esco barriers, and next these can go into our diorama. Now these will be positioned in the top corner, and to do that I'd like to create a little raised area of earth where these have been positioned. So first I mark that on the foam base itself, and next I'm going to use a little piece of construction foam just to create that little raised section of earth. A wire foam cutter will make shaping this very easy, and once all the pieces are in place, there's a little earth platform. Now with this all done, I just want to double check whether everything is still in the correct position, and for that I'm going to place the Apache model on the diorama foam base. I'd like to add some concrete as well. You remember that from the diorama planning video. And to make these concrete slabs, I'm going to use these thinner sheets of foam. These will be cut to size, and just that portion at the top will be concrete. Very easy to do with some careful measurement and a sharp hobby knife blade. And these are cut into sections that I'll be using as the concrete slabs. Next I'll need to add some texture. For this I'll be using Dry Ground from AK Interactive. This is of course an acrylic paste, water-based, and it's very easy to apply this with a palette knife to your diorama base. Very much like icing a cake or making a peanut butter sandwich. And you can also do some additional texturing with a old wet brush. You're likely going to throw away that brush, so don't use your best one. Some fine gravel, some fine stones is used next, just to create some additional texture. And finally I use some watered down acrylic paste just to stick these rocks to the diorama base. A base color is required next, and for this I used Iraqi sand from Vallejo Model Color. This is applied to this section of the diorama base with my airbrush. And next, two darker colors, Dark Earth and Hemp. Guys, now disregard the paint names. I'm only concerned with the actual color. You can see there as I start layering these paints, we're really getting to the nice detail that we're after. Next I need to fill the Esco barrier, guys, and it's not necessary to fill the entire thing with acrylic paste. I actually use some old foam and just cut these little squares, and that will only require me to add some acrylic paste to the very top of the Esco barrier. To fix them to the diorama base, I use some pins and a hole drilled in the bottom of each barrier, and then finally some PVA glue that will anchor everything nicely to the diorama base. So, filling these Esco barriers. For that I'll be using Sandy Desert, again from AK Interactive, again acrylic paste. This has to be applied very carefully, guys, because you don't want to get this paste all over the Esco barrier. Next I used a damp brush just to make sure that all the gaps are filled at the top of that barrier, and to add some texture as well. Now while the paste is still wet, I added the second layer of Esco barriers. Of course, when the paste cures, the barriers will be fixed in position. The next step is some gap filling. You'll see there's some quite extensive gaps here. For this I'm going to use Sandy Desert again, And this has been watered down. I'm going to apply this with a old syringe, and it works perfectly just to get that acrylic paste into all those little spaces. A old stippling brush is again used, and this will be used just to add some additional texture to the top of those barriers. Again, my two dark colors are used, and just adding some darker tones to the top and the sides of the barrier wall. Guys, in reference pictures you can see there's quite a lot of loose gravel, and this is something I'd like to add to my diorama wall, especially to the bottom section of that wall. I'm using some fine gravel from Pro Art, and this is glued in place with watered down PVA glue. Once the PVA glue is cured, you'll see this looks a bit shiny, and that's something I'll need to address. For that, I'm again going to use ultra matte varnish from Vallejo. This is carefully sprayed on that bottom section of the gravel. Now I'm going to use concrete, and this will be applied just to the edge there of that gravel, and this will later blend nicely with the concrete texture that we're going to add to those foam slabs. That will be our concrete base. Again, I'm using some of my darker colors, dark earth, just to add some earthy tones. One of the final steps is just to add some wash, some filter colors, these being from MIG Productions. The orange one specifically, guys, I found to be very effective to bring out the detail on the sand that fills those ESCO barriers. And once this dried, it gave me a very nice effect indeed. The final step is just to add a nice little piece of brown tuft from Green Stuff World. This is glued in place with their adhesive, and it adds a nice little piece of extra detail to our ESCO wall. Guys, so there's the final result. I had so much fun putting this together. Great product from Fallout Models. Of course, this diorama is not complete, and in the next upcoming video I'll be showing you how I completed the concrete section as well as the gravel. But highly recommended, these modern tactical barriers from Fallout Models, available on their website right now. Guys, that's it then for this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, follow me on Instagram. I do frequent updates on all my builds there. You're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.